PMDD shaped my life for 17 years before I could name it. I spent those years searching for answers, questioning my sanity, and desperately seeking treatments that actually worked. My painful journey had an unexpected twist. Helping others heal from PMDD became my life's purpose. Hi, I'm Jess, a board-certified nutritional therapist, coach, the founder of Her Mood Mentor, and your host. This is PMDD Pep Talk, a weekly reminder that your suffering is real, your experience is valid, and your future is brighter than your symptoms suggest. Each week, we're going to explore the truths about PMDD that nobody talks about. The kind of truths that shift something deep inside you and make you think, maybe there's more possible than I imagined. Whether you're in the depths of luteal darkness or riding the clarity of your follicular phase, you're exactly where you need to be. Because here's what I know for sure. Healing PMDD isn't just about managing symptoms, it's about transforming your life. This challenge, as brutal as it can be, is an invitation to know yourself more deeply and live a more joyful, purpose-filled life. PMDD might feel like your whole story, but it's just a chapter, and you get to write what comes next. Welcome to PMDD Pep Talk. Quick pep talk pause. Remember that everything we talk about here is meant to educate and inspire. Always team up with your healthcare provider for personal medical advice. All right, now let's get into it. Hello, this is Jess with Her Mood Mentor, and today I'm meeting with one of our one-to-one clients and PMDD rehab students, Emma. Emma's here to share her story, and we're so excited to have you. Emma, thanks for being here.
So glad to be here.
Yay! So we're just gonna get into it. I'm curious if you would mind sharing a little bit about your PMDD background, kind of how you came to the diagnosis, what you were experiencing, really any details you want to share around the condition and how it affected you.
Sure. So having the benefit of hindsight, I've definitely experienced at least some level of PMDD from a pretty young age. I think as far as a teenager. And I do remember kind of Googling, symptoms and things and being like, this is awful, like just huge mood swings, feeling, especially depression was a huge one. But I really noticed it kind of happening right before my period. And then as soon as I got it, it was like, oh, I feel like a different person. And feeling like it wasn't normal. And I first saw the term PMDD doing that, but I never really took it to a doctor or anything and never really got it confirmed. So it was in the back of my head, but I think I kind of pushed it, kind of dismissed it. And then kind of moving forward as I was entering college and going through all that, I kind of was always there and just, entering new phases of life and new challenges and would definitely kind of bring up more and more of those, a lot of psychological symptoms with like mood swings, irritability, just depression. And it kind of took getting to a really bad place and going to a doctor and just being like, I think I'm depressed. I think I need medication or something. And I just didn't know what to do. So I did. Initially, my PCP gave me a prescription for Zoloft, which is one of the first line treatments for PMDD, although she was just kind of treating it as depression. And I got a little bit of relief from that. I continued to just kind of have stronger, more consistent psychological symptoms, though. So I ended up seeing a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And that ended up going more of a direction of like, it's kind of a cycle. It almost like highs and lows. It almost looks like bipolar, but you're not full mania or anything like that. So it's kind of like a cyclothymia. But then, I kind of pushed. I was like, it really seems to have a pattern with my period. And she was like, okay. And she wasn't as obsessed with, naming it a specific thing, but she's like, let's really work with that. Try to write down your symptoms, keep a mood journal. And so we kind of kept the route. I was interested at the time. I was kind of desperate. So I was like, let's try a medication route. And so I ended up kind of some concoction mixes of psychiatric medications, just kind of going that angle, which had a varying levels of relief, and then the rabbit trail of side effects. And I'm really thankful for it. Ultimately, I did. get on a mix of medications that helped me. I was able to start nursing school and go back to that. And it helped for a time, but I didn't want to stay on that long term. So that's kind of how I ended up here. And yeah, so that was kind of how I ended up here. And in terms of just like overall PMDD affecting my life, having all those mood symptoms really affected ability to just like have a, I don't know, do more than the basics. I, for the most part, was able to keep a job and do things um, until it got really bad. But, unreliable with being able to hang out with friends. I'd have to cancel last minute and just be overwhelmed. Sometimes have that feeling of overwhelm has just always been the word. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's like, I can't go out. I can't, I don't know. There's just a swirling, like, icky feelings inside. Um, that would just be really hard to kind of name and it would be really confusing. And so um, that definitely made it really hard to just do things, go out, like maintain relationships. And so that's definitely something I've thankfully been able to see a lot of improvement in.
Yes, yes, I'm so excited to get into that because you have so many wins coming through the program and the process. So these symptoms were there for a long time. They were impacting your quality of life for a long time. There was kind of a mystery journey of figuring out what is happening, trying a variety of different uh, first line treatments from the SSRI, birth control forms, psychiatric medications in the mix. You found some relief on those, which is fantastic. And ultimately, you wanted a longer term strategy and didn't want to be on those medications long term. So that I'm hearing that's what motivated you to take a more integrative approach specifically. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm curious to hear this was a new angle, right? Like you work in the medical field, you're like locked in, it's fantastic. You have so much knowledge under your belt, especially now that you've been back in school. What were some of your fears joining a program, an integrative menstrual health program like this?
Yeah, so obviously, I was on medications. I've always had some level of, being health conscious, trying to exercise, trying to eat a reasonable diet. Um, from a pretty young age. So a lot of those habits were kind of built in, but always room for improvement. And I think, again, just knowing like long term side effects of drugs or just unknown of what it would look like long term. I was on birth control for about a year and I knew that, I wouldn't be able to stay on this if I want to have kids, which I would like to in the future. And so what's it going to be like if I go off it? Will I have horrible symptoms? And so, and just really, really wanting to not be masking symptoms, but kind of treat that underlying. I really believed, I was like, I think there's a way, I think it's possible. I've seen people, I've heard stories, and um, I think my fear going in was probably just that I did have some of that mindset of like, I've tried everything. Cause, I looked up too and I tried supplements and just kind of random things without really a clear like direction and guide or someone who kind of knows what they're doing with all that until I met you and um so I think that I kind of was just afraid like it's not going to work or I don't know, maybe it would be really extreme and too hard. Like, are you gonna make me quit gluten and dairy? I can't do that,
Mhm.
like no
Yeah.
happiness, so is it worth it? So I think those are the kind of the big things going in.
Yeah, such common fears that we see as well. How hard is this going to be? Is it going to be super restrictive? And also, of course, the very common fear of feeling like, what if this doesn't work? What if I've already tried everything and there's nothing new coming to the table here? So we'll unpack this more, but I'm just wondering if you have anything to share right here around how those fears evolved as you worked through the process.
Sure. Well, pretty quickly I saw that we're taking a very reasonable paced approach. A lot of it was guided by um, me getting to kind of intuitively look and see and find like, oh, I could improve in that, and I'm gravitated towards that. So it comes with a little bit more natural like motivation, like, yeah, that's something I could change, rather than being told like you have to do this thing, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. I think that definitely helped, and celebrating wins regularly, I think helped me see that, um, you're not completely changing overnight, but you're identifying that there is progress and baby steps forward. And that was really motivating and helped, I think, kind of respond to those fears of to see like, you know what, like it's possible to change and to heal and yeah, to cope, learning all those things.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's a very different approach that we take, different than you had previously experienced more in the conventional medicine realm, where it's like, you're going to do this thing, and then you do the thing, right? Mostly we're talking about medication being prescribed, but the process that we guide you through is very self-led. We pace it to your lifestyle at the time, the demands that are on you, and we don't live in your body, you do. We don't live in your life, you do. We don't know what your ultimate goals are, you do. So it's a really collaborative process to really bring you home to yourself. We're just kind of walking you home to yourself and finding your way with reducing and managing these symptoms and learning to interpret the symptoms as messages from your body, which ultimately, right, we can provide a lot of education and resources around, okay, this is what we're looking for, right? But ultimately, you have to make that connection with yourself and start to develop that relationship in a healthy and safe way. Where previously with PMDD, because of the severity of the symptoms, your relationship with yourself can really be on rocky ground, and there can be a lot of work to do there. So this process almost like is a doorway into the healing process of like forgiveness, compassion, right? Working with some of those deeper wounds that have come from living with these symptoms for so long, like you have in your case.
Mhm.
Um, and then I completely forgot what your second point was, so I can't riff on that right now. Maybe it will come back to me. I'm like really fixated on the first point. But those fears, oh, the second point was like the strictness of changing everything. And that is something that we hear so often. That's my favorite thing to hear. One of my favorite things to hear is this wasn't so demanding. I didn't have to change everything in my life to feel better because that's just not, it's not accessible. It's not what we want. We don't want to strip all the joy and pleasure out of life. So kind of finding your way with it that navigates the complexities without putting a bunch more pressure on you
Mhm.
is huge and so important. So let's get into what we noticed was changing with you throughout the implementation of our protocols, the learning points that you got throughout the program. I would be curious to hear kind of what shifted for you in symptom duration and severity, if we could start there. Pim has a lot to say about your story share right now. My dog. Pim,
Cheer
go lay
back.
down.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. So I probably was, I think I was getting this solid like 2 weeks symptomatic, like for me, I feel like I know there's like strict kind of specific boundaries for what is going to be diagnosed as PMDD, but then within that can look a little different for individuals. And for some reason, for me, it's like I know when I ovulate, I start to feel awful, and then it'll let up, and then it'll kind of like tank again, and then period starts, and it's the relief. And so I was definitely experiencing like major fatigue, lack of motivation, feeling really irritated. Like, yesterday I was okay with the level of, messy dishes and a pile of laundry that needs to be folded. And then today it is the absolute end of the world. Um, that kind of thing. And it did get to the point at the worst that I was really struggling to even be able to work a not very stressful job full time, and was backing off, and it's like, okay, I really got it, we got to change something and do something. So that's kind of what led me here. And as we made the different changes and adapted through the program, and just kind of identifying areas and strategies too with just kind of like coping and the mental side of thinking through things and handling it. I think a huge thing that shifted for me was a mindset of going from kind of resenting my body, resenting having to go through this, and then when I get irritable, being angry at everybody and it's not fair and, why me, to kind of accepting like this is something my body's like going through. And um, I like that word you use, having compassion for myself. Like, this is hard and it's okay to be struggling. And like being angry and resentful isn't making it better, it's making it more miserable. So I think just acceptance, like coming to a state of acceptance, and then, okay, how can I work with what I have? And so, I think that a lot of that mental shift even changed like how much the same symptom might affect me. Um, lots to say. Um, and so, like I still have days where, I'm tired and I'm not as motivated and I feel kind of down. But I think that level of acceptance and we worked a lot on resilience and not letting that kind of hold me down and still being able to see and celebrate like I'm having a hard day, but I still was able to push through and accomplish this and be, proud of that. Made a huge difference.
Yeah, the mindset that you bring and the perspective that you bring and the patience that you bring really can change the experience. And so, when people come into the program, they come into the program to reduce their symptoms, which we help you do. But something that's really missing in so much of the PMDD support angle, that's provided, especially in conventional medicine, right? Because this is just out of their scope, but is the management and how you manage the symptoms can really make or break your life in the context of symptoms, right? How you manage the symptoms can determine, do you still have a job? Are you still in a relationship? If you have kids, do you still have custody of your kids? Depending on how severe your symptoms are, like, are you alive or not? Like, the management aspect is huge. And so much of that management aspect is tied into mindset work, nervous system regulation, your perception, and your tools for acceptance and understanding. So that is a huge part of the program. And I think it's not as easy to quantify those wins, right? It's not like I'm hitting my protein goals or my hydration goals, right? Check the box. It's more nebulous, kind of deeper work, but at the same time, in some ways, that is the work that is, I don't want to say more impactful, but there's something to it. There's like a zhuzh to it that really fuels the healing process and really helps you unlock the next levels of recovery that you can't quite get if you're just focused on really like specific protocols for like, these supplements and these diet changes and that type of thing. Like you need to marry both, and that's something that I didn't get when I was recovering with PMDD and finding help and support for PMDD, and it's something that I feel is so necessary and something that is one of my favorite things to provide in the process because it's unexpected, right? People expect to come in and do some diet changes and get some supplement recommendations and things like that, but they don't really expect that deeper work, and we can't know what's going to come out of it for each individual. So it's really fun to see, and something that really came out for you was just like being more present, experiencing more joy and pleasure in the day to day, feeling more in control, like feeling more capable. We're going to read your quotes in a little while, but I believe one of them was something about how much stronger you were than you realized.
Hmm. Yeah, and and part of, leading up to doing this program too, I did have some good experiences with counseling that helped kind of build some foundation coming in that I'm grateful for, and I think helped kind of pave the way. And that made me kind of realize just that background was like, oh, okay, this, for me especially, like, I think it's important for everyone, but I just kind of saw like this is very impactful for me and how like I mentally process things and that kind of side of coping, and a lot of that didn't come naturally. And so I knew though that it was like that final kind of push to really see, I don't know, kind of a breakthrough is what I feel like this year's been for me. Was like I just wish I had someone that like it was PMDD like and knows like that experience, because it's just very specific that most counselors or other people aren't going to know. And Yeah, that's where I think this, being so personalized to where I'm at, my lifestyle, with what I've got going on, what I can and can't do, and then coming in with that focusing on PMDD and that experience is what made the difference.
Yeah, you were so primed. You had already done so much work. You've explored other avenues. So you really jumped in with 2 feet here. The timing, you're so thoughtful, even with the timing of joining the program based on what else you had coming up in the future, your goals in the future. So there was a lot of intentionality to it, and you carried that through the entire process, which just served you so beautifully. Um, so I'm wondering, so we started out with 2 weeks of symptoms. As you've graduated out of the program, what are your symptoms looking like now as far as duration and severity of symptoms? What has changed?
Yeah, I'd say I'm down to, well, my very last session with you, so I'll say, was very exciting. I described it as I have never had this happen. I've always known when I was going to get my period. Thankfully, I actually have very regular ones, so that is a cheat. But um, just based on how I'm feeling, like knowing the symptoms, like, oh, like I'm super depressed, angry, all these things, like it's going to come, in a few days. And I had the first time where I like lost track of my cycle. Like my luteal phase was that manageable that I was just kind of rolling with it. And then I like got my period and I was like, oh my gosh, I like forgot that was gonna happen. And so, symptom free is, we will say, which is kind of with a caveat, but that was incredible. I was like, wow, that's possible. Which is not gonna be every month, but at this point, since then, like it's been probably, we're looking at like 3 or 4 days of mild to moderate. If I've got super optional things that I can reschedule or just stay home and be lazy, I'll probably opt for that. But I can go to work, I can go to school. Like I'm able to do the things that are most important, and I'm not miserable. Add in some extra TLC, which I think is a good thing to just do long term. And with that, it's, yeah, definitely keeping mild to moderate.
Which is so excited because starting out with around 2 weeks of moderate to severe symptoms within a 4 month period, being able to say a handful of days, 3 to 4 days of symptoms with one cycle in that period of time being symptom free with a caveat, as we like to say.
Mhm.
Um, but that is so impressive and so exciting and so hopeful for the future of your life, but also for those listening, feeling like, there's no way out of this. That's not the truth. You're just another testament to that. You showed up, you invested in yourself, you put in the paced and aligned work, and within a very short time, I mean, 4 months after living with this for going on 2 decades is just a wild outcome and something to be so proud of. And it's just so inspiring. So, um, huge transformation that we've seen there. And I'm also wondering, through this process, you're talking about, okay, I was able to show up like the way that the symptom reduction is impacting your quality of life, but you also had some pretty specific goals that you had coming into this program around medication for the future because you have things you want to do without the medication piece playing so much of a role. Is there anything that you feel comfortable sharing around that angle?
Yeah, no, absolutely. A big motivation besides just side effects and unknown long-term health impacts with medication, is, I want to have kids in the future. I don't have any yet. And while some of them I could technically be on, I mean, you can't be on birth control, of course. So I knew that was gonna be out. I had to step that. But um, some of them, it's like, if the benefits outweigh the risks, and I was like, I don't know what that means. Would I want to do that? Is it worth risking it? And I just kind of decided, I was like, I really do not want to be on medication when I'm ready to start a family. And so um, that was a very specific goal. Was like, I want to do all this work into just building the healthiest body I can and habits and rhythms in my life, to kind of keep that steady underlying basis and then start working on tapering. And I was able to get off of birth control at the very beginning of the program was the first thing. So we were working through coming off of that. And I think that having the support through the program made that a much smoother process. And then I was also able to get off of lithium, which I'd been on for, I think, probably about 3 years. And I was very excited because I don't think I had any negative symptoms coming off of that. And still now it's been a couple months and doing really well. And so I've actually started tapering off of, or will be starting to taper off of the SSRI that I'm on. So I'm very excited for that.
Oh my goodness, Emma, this is just so wild. I do want to preface that medication tapering is out of my scope. So I was not directly facilitating this. I was helping you with the lifestyle and diet aspects, especially with birth control, because that can impact nutrient absorption. So we really wanted to buffer you before you started working with your prescribing physicians to come off any of these medications. Um, but you were able to come off too during the process with your providers, with our support. And then you're preparing to come off of the third medication, which is just so fantastic. Another one of my favorite outcomes of this program. So many clients come into this with the hope of reducing their dosage or coming off of their medications, a wide variety of different medications. And it's happening so frequently with clients in different medication realms, as I'm saying. And so it's, when that's their goal, we love supporting whatever goals you have, whether it's to go on medication or get off and be in it in the healthiest way for your body. And so that's really exciting to see you achieving those goals again in such a short time without any negative side effects, which is the craziest, most amazing part of the whole thing.
Hmm. Yeah, very exciting.
So, should we read some quotes from your
Yeah, do
sessions
it.
to just dip our toes back in? Okay, so, oh, so exciting. So, some of the quotes, I love this one. I'm able to do things and show up in my life. Another, oh, this is so good. I feel like my world is opening up. There are more.
Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite ones. I will see what else you say, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, your world opening up is so huge and such a beautiful just metaphor for the healing of PMDD process. You said, I feel so different than 3 to 4 months ago, which is fantastic. You said, easiest luteal phase I've had in as long as I can remember. Oh, this one hits deep. Emma, like, oh, I feel like I can look ahead at the future and see possibilities and not just be in survival mode.
Yeah, I think that's the big sum it up.
Yeah, so beautiful. And then I have a couple more here. You said, I'm a lot more capable than I thought I was. So much self-esteem is built when you learn to reduce and manage something that has plagued you forever, and you've done all of these things to address it. I mean, what is better than getting these types of results with PMDD? Like, what could boost your confidence more? It's just, it makes you feel untouchable. You feel so capable because you are. You made huge strides here. And another one that is really cute is you said, I can't believe I'm smiling at work on day 2 of my cycle.
Oh, that's great. I forgot that one, but now I remember.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to those quotes as we're reflecting on them?
Oh, no, I think it just definitely helps me like I don't know, you can get kind of amnesia sometimes. I think that's because we live in that cycle and you have to like forget how bad it is. And so it's really great to remind me of like, oh, just the results of the hard work and how worth it it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so beautiful to see looking back. I also wanted to share, I mean, a huge win. So we do a lot of data collection, we facilitate testing, we there's a lot of number games that we're playing in the process to help you, well, to help us build protocols and personalize them to you, but also to give you some firm ground to stand on of what you're getting out of the process, what has changed, where we're seeing improvements. So one of those, this is where we start all of our clients that we provide this in our introductory session for those considering coming into the program, and it's a symptom assessment. It's a 320 question assessment that evaluates lifestyle factors, diet factors, and your symptoms and ties them to different body systems, organs, nutrient factors, things like that. So we started out with that when we ran that for you in April, and your symptom burden came back at 513 points. So quite high. Numerous things in the high priority and the medium priority for you to be focusing on. We targeted what we found in that symptom assessment along with the lab data that we collected for you and the nutritional therapy process that we guided you through. We implemented those changes. You diligently explored with curiosity the possible protocols. And as you implemented those and saw the reduction, we retested at the end of the program, and you had reduced your symptoms down to 292 points from 513. So we saw a 221 point reduction for you in your symptom burden, which is just so exciting. That's a large symptom burden reduction and just mirrors the results, the quotes, the reduction in severity and duration of your specific symptoms. So, as you're reflecting on this, I'm wondering, what message of hope do you have to that version of yourself 4 months ago, feeling hopeless, feeling unsure of where to go from here, or for others out there feeling like there's really nothing to do about these symptoms? I just have to continue to white knuckle it. It's going to continue to negatively affect my life. You really have experienced a transformation. You're on another side of living with PMDD, one that many of us don't reach, especially in a 4 month period. So what little nuggets of wisdom can you share for your past self and for those people still in the place of feeling hopeless?
Yes. I mean, I think you hear people say it and so it can feel old, but truly just like don't give up. I mean, I'm glad I didn't. Sometimes it takes hard work and it may not come as fast and it can take trial and error, but I think you you realize as you're working through it and you look back and you're like, I've made it this far having to deal with this, then I'm strong enough to keep working for changes and working to find what's going to help you. And um, yeah, I think that was a big one for me, was just realizing that I, in my quote, like I am stronger than I think I am. And when you get the right support and help, like through this program is one way, then you can really make a lot of changes. And there's so many things you can do. I think it's truly impossible to try everything.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to tell yourself a new story now. That old belief of I've tried everything has been disproven, and that's so good because you do have so many options continuing even beyond now with the results that you've seen. There's more to do as additional health things come up or you have a hard PMDD month, but that's such a beautiful takeaway to not give up. You really advocated for yourself continually. You drew a line in the sand and you said, I'm not going to continue to live this way. Like, this has affected me for too long. It's getting in the way of my goals, the future that I want to have. And you, even with the fears and the apprehensions, even after everything that you tried, you still made the choice to keep going. And look at you now.
And I think too, like I would add, um, that you also don't have to do everything. And so that's kind of an assurance of like I was afraid of, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to, eat kale every meal and, have no joy and whatever, all these things. And it does not have to be that way.
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be extreme, and the smallest step one at a time is worth doing, and it is progress, and you could always be proud of that.
So beautiful, Emma. Thank you so much for coming in, being willing to share your story. I know this is really going to raise so much hope for those out there still suffering, those on their journey to find relief from symptoms, learn how to manage symptoms better. Your story is a testament to that. It's just a shining beacon of light of what's possible for others. And we're so excited to see how this continues to play out because the work isn't done. You're still living. You still have a cycle. You're continuing towards your goals, but PMDD isn't at the center of your story anymore. You are.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
thank you for having me.